Today's webinar is Actionable Views. Welcome, everybody. I have a few things we're going to cover today that we hope are very helpful for you. So I'm Brandon Huff, the head of sales here, and I'm joined by Ethan Folks, the founder of Magic Button Labs. And here at Magic Button Labs, we bring the tools, know-how, and structure to help our clients get the most out of Monday.com. We do that through best practice architecture, enablement, and ongoing support to help make sure our customers and clients are very supported as they go down this journey in Monday.com. Now, Ethan and I have at least a couple decades of collective experience in the SaaS enterprise tooling space, but we've really been focused on the Monday ecosystem for the last 4 years due to its flexibility, power, integrations, other items like that. And today we're going to show you a little bit more about the powerful views you can get through this that are easy to set up and scalable. So let's jump in. Today, we're going to talk about why views matter, like what is a view and what it goes into a good one. We'll talk about patterns and anti-patterns that we see that help impact how views scale across your teams, across boards, and across workspaces, and ultimately how your teams adopt Monday. And last but not least, we're going to show you the types of views and demo for you some of the differences between some messy things that we often see, as well as some of the best practices and ways to help clean up some of those views. So what are views and why do they matter? Well, a view is simply a filtering of your data onto a board. And we need to make sure that we have the right data in the right place for that view to be meaningful. And that means that your boards need to be set up in a certain way so you can get the right views out of it. Meaning, if you put everything into one board and then you try to get views on it, you can, but you're going to end up with dozens and dozens of views, and it doesn't necessarily support your business process. It doesn't support the roles and the actions that you need to take or your workflow. So some of this really gets into board structure and how that's there. And if you do want to check out some of our dashboards at scale on the architecture, that is on our YouTube channel, you can check that out as well. But it's really important to get these pieces right, because if we do it right, you have great adoption from your teams because it's consistent, it works well, and it cuts across all their boards in the same sort of fashion so they see what they need to manage their workflow. But without that, we've seen a lot of people struggle with Monday.com. There's too many columns. I can't see what I need to see. I'm not managing my workflow, and it gets messy pretty fast. So ultimately, we don't want folks to end up in that spot. So we want to make sure that we give you the right views in the right place in the right way. And that's what we're going to cover today.
And Brandon, if I could just put
Please.
a even finer point on that and stress the adoption suffers, user adoption is ultimately the number one thing that matters. If you get everybody on your team or on your teams using the same system, following the same workflows and processes, the amount of wins that you can grab, the low-hanging fruit is huge, right? Everyone's in the same tool. They're using it in real time. They're not doing duplicate work. So we really, really want to make sure that every user of the system has a view that they love, not even a view that they can tolerate. We want to give them a view that they absolutely love using.
And that's wonderful because what makes a great view? Thank you for the wonderful segue, Ethan.
Got it.
There's a handful of pieces of this, and this is something we've seen across all the clients here, right? Your team wants something that's relevant to them. Is that by their role? Is that by the workflow? Something that makes it where they need to go into the tool to help them manage it. Therefore, we also need clear names and defaults, and we'll show you how to set that up a little bit later. But that also means consistency across your boards. If you call it one thing in one board, something different someplace else, your team constantly has to context switch as they go across boards and across workspaces. So trying to have some standards of what you will constantly show is very important. Last but not least, pin and lock those views. Let them be the standard, be the default on every board, so your team always knows they're there and can reorient exactly what they need to see across it. Now, what we often see is here on the right. There's one cluttered view. This is that main table that shows everything. We recommend you don't use the main table as a way to manage your work. Instead, it's all the columns and the data that you need, but we then create individual views from that main table so you can help manage that work and manage your business process. We also want to avoid things like table one or view two, board copy, things like that. We've all done it. When we create it, we forget to update it. But as a best practice, you want to make sure you are naming them intelligently and that they're consistent also across boards and across workspaces. And this helps avoid a lot of those constantly changing views as they say, well, this team has it called this has it called something else. It's very confusing for users. And Us too. We use Monday to run our own business here. So it's important that we set those things up. We know what's in them and they're repeatable every time. So, what are some of the patterns we've seen? This is a very important part, and this dives into a couple different parts. Some of this is how you set up your board. So, you need to make sure that your workflow and your business process is captured on your board, but not your data sets. This is a higher level architecture concept that we've covered in a couple other videos, but it's important to highlight the data that doesn't change. We don't necessarily need to put on your board, or if we do, we need to hide it so that it's not where your team manages that work. So make sure that you're not bringing in data you just don't need for your views. Bring in the stuff that matters. Bring it in across other boards if you have it there, and use an intelligent architecture to help show the things you need to manage your workflow. But with that, we also then can get more meaningful views and dashboards. Imagine if we can have one board that pulls in your data across multiple different boards, some that have data, some that have workflow, all in one spot. We now have a very rich view, and that can include dashboards as well as individual views and how you manage your work. It's very, very powerful. But even more powerful than that is automations that we can set up. How can we set up your workflow to show things that are missing? Show things that should have been completed earlier. We can set up automations to trigger different workflow statuses if we haven't replied in a week or two. If we are missing a certain requirement, we can have it prompt us to make sure we follow the right process and get the right things out of the tool. So these are all key items here that we see are constantly done, I'll say somewhat inconsistently on the high area, and otherwise we show up and there's just one table across everything, and it's a little bit hard to manage. And we try to implement these different aspects to help make sure it scales, they have the right patterns, it's consistent across the teams. So there's a handful of different view types. We have board views, which is our workflow, and that's mostly the statuses we try to manage there. It's our business process ultimately. Then we have our dashboards. What's the summary of that data across it? Next down, we have our item or card views, as it's sometimes called. These are the individual items in Monday that also have different fields you can see and manage across it. And last but not least is my work. My work has different views that's also customizable you need to see. The difference here is board and team are very specific, or board and item are specific to a board. My work cuts across all the workspaces and all the boards in an individual instance. So I want to make sure we have the right views across all of these. And I'm going to now pass it over to Ethan to tell us about our board views.
Cool. Thanks, Brandon. Awesome. So this is the instance where I'm going to show you all some nice clean views like Brandon shared. But first, I want to show you the anti-pattern, the most common anti-pattern we see when we jump into people's Monday instances. So I'm going to jump over to this demo template. Monday has a wonderful template library. You can create a new workspace. You can browse from hundreds, maybe thousands of templates. They will get you started, and they will look nice and clean like this. So this is using Monday's demo CRM template. It's a wonderful starting point. And I chose one of the boards. I'm looking at the leads board. And what I want you to notice is that there's only one view. I'm about to show you lots of views. There's only one view. It's the main table view. And I want you to notice that this does not feel overwhelming at all. This looks like exactly what I should be looking at when I'm managing leads. There's 8 to 10 different fields. They all make sense that I would want to see these, and I can work my leads board. But I'm going to, well, and I'm going to show you in a moment what happens over time as you add more and more data. The other thing I want to show you is when you just create a new board, when you go board and you create a new board, you get a blank board that looks like this. You'll notice again, just working on the main table, just a handful of fields, everything feels nice and clean. So let's jump back over here now to our demo template or our official demo, because this is an actual working instance using our scale kits architecture. And the first thing that you'll notice is what Brandon talked about of being clear on what data belongs in what board. So we chose the CRM sales use case to start with. And we've got 3 process or workflow boards. We've got targets, people we want them to know who we are. They don't know yet. Leads is people that that have shown an interest or a pain. And then we qualify a lead, they become an opportunity. And so I'm going to show you our opportunities board. And what you will see is it's going to load a whole bunch of views up here. We use views extensively. And the other thing I want you to notice is this main table view is all the way over here on the right. That's because one of the first things we tell everyone on our team and for our clients is we say, you're not going to use the main table. Imagine that's just your database view. And here's why. Over time, you're going to add a lot of data into your system. So I'm going to scroll here for a moment so you can see just how much data is in our opportunities board. Now, some of this lives here, some of it's coming in from other boards, and it serves different purposes. The point is, this is overwhelming and nobody would want to work in it. I certainly don't. And that's why we start with our default view. Now, before I walk you through this, because Brandon mentioned we're going to be intentional about our naming conventions and our orders. So what you'll notice is that I've pinned all of these views. So the pinned views are here, and then the unpinned views are towards the right. The other thing I've done is I've locked a lot of these views. So I've said, hey, I've curated this view. I don't want somebody else coming in. Only the board owners can change what this view looks like, but anybody can duplicate it and then they can make a customized view. That's fine. So we've done that. And you'll see I've got 4 workflow boards, then I've got 4 dashboards, then I've got my views into closed statuses essentially, and then I've got some architectural views at the end. And you will see this throughout all the different boards that we've built out. We follow that same pattern. It gives people consistency. They know where to go. They know what to expect. So let's take a look at the default view. We've got a workflow that looks like this. Manual entry, qualified, follow-up, and in progress. So we have some automations on timing that flip between there. Customer says intent. We have a back office process. Then it's closed one, ideally, sometimes no decision or we lose deals. And so those are workflows. What you'll see here is we're only showing the workable statuses: manual entry, qualified, follow-up, in progress, and then intent. Everything else is filtered out. So this is the high level view, and you'll notice just like that previous board, I'm only showing about 10 fields, which is exactly the 10 fields Brandon and I and the sales team want to look at to make sure we're hitting everything we need to hit from a high level. So that's this view. The next one you'll notice is the Me Dynamic view. It's actually a copy of the default view, but check this out. When I go here, it's only going to show the things where I am the salesperson. And that's because we've added one filter where salesperson is Me Dynamic, which means me, Ethan, because I'm showing you this view, it's showing me my work. If Brandon was to load it, we would see Brandon's work here, right? So it would look like this for Brandon. We'd see his deals instead of mine. So that's nice. It cleans it up for each salesperson. After that, when we get to intent and back office, we have a different team that manages this. We have a back office sales admin team. So we want them to get started when a customer says intent, and then they move it to back office. We happen to model our invoicing data here. Our accounting team works here next. So we have that in our back office view. And then with back office in place and all of the different dollars laid out, then the accounting team can work on the invoicing view. Even though the deal is closed one, there are still invoices that need to be paid. So it's going to stay on this view until all the upcomings are either paid or declined. And then it will close out from this view. So those are our process views. They support 3 different teams. The first 2 is the sales team. Then we have the back office admin team. And then we have the accounting team. From there, we move into our dashboard views. We covered this in last week's webinar about dashboarding. We've got an executive view that's showing us high-level data. We have a management view that's helping us manage everything that's in progress. We're doing the Me Dynamic view, so it just filters that down to just my stuff. And then the accounting team, since they're doing their invoicing here on this board, they also want a dashboard about the invoicing process. And that's the end of the dashboards. And then we just go to, let's look at the deals that are now closed. So for closed one, we want to have high level data on the deals we've won. We've connected it over to the delivery or the post-sales world so we can see who's leading it and what's the status, get some high level info on that. And then closed lost, we want to be able to circle back on the deals we've lost, maybe a year later if you have a bid process, something like that, or no decision. Maybe we can just ping them and reopen that connection. So that's the end of our closed views. And then finally, we just have architectural views, which is going to be always the main table for people building the system. And also, this is a useful view for just the connections. This shows me what are the other boards we've connected to the opportunities board. We can see the organizations and the data we're pulling in there, who referred the business and some data from that. and then who's our contact and their data, and then if we've sold the deal, the delivery board and how that delivery is going. So this is it. You can see huge difference. Never am I showing all of the data fields. Always trying to have each view show just what you can see in one screen, so you're not scrolling left and right. And that makes it very easy for people to understand where to go to accomplish what thing. And even though you're going to have different data on each board, you would see all of the boards follow these same patterns from left to right. Anything else I should cover, Brandon, or you want to take us over to
Yeah, I have
the
just
item
one item
views?
to add is all of this is possible because of how you've set up the board. Meaning we have our leads handled separately from opportunities. We've split that workflow for us so we can track who's potentially interested from who's really interested as we go through that. You may want to consider that for your business process so that you can have very focused views that match your process inside of it. I think it's a great part of it.
100%. Cool. Let's go a level deeper.
All righty. So let's now jump into the next level down. Under the boards, we have two views. One of them is item views, something's called a card view. And these are great. This is when you're in a board, you click into an item and you start seeing different fields available. Those are customizable too. Are they the right fields? Do they help you take action? Are they ones you need to update regularly as you go through that? We want to make sure those are set up correctly too, again, to help support your business process and workflow. So we'll go over how to set that up here in a moment. And the next is my work. My work, again, is across all of the workspaces and boards that you may have in an instance. And those are also customizable by person, by date, by status, by board, things like that. We can start narrowing it down so that it fits for what you need to see. They have very different purposes here, but we're going to smash them together into one demo. But I want you to see some of the differences of when should you use my work? When should you use items and boards? Both of them have slightly different answers and considerations of how you set it up.
Yes.
So very short, but back to you, Ethan. Can you show us both of those pieces as well as some of the challenges a lot of our clients have in both item and my work views?
Cool. So same as before, I want to show you the default anti-pattern. So again, we're on the leads board from the template, and I'm going to drill into one of these. And what you'll see is you get this nice drilled in view. Again, it doesn't feel overwhelming. We've got lead stages, emails and activities, which is wonderful. If you've integrated with your email, it's automatically pulling in all of that dialogue for you without having to open up that. And then you see we have the lead info box over here on the right, which once again does not feel overwhelming because there's only 8 data fields. And so wonderful. I can see all that detail in the drilled in view. And you can click through card by card. Next card, next card. It's nice. But if I switch back to our official demo, I'll show you the same thing that happens on this when you have too much data. Well, not too much, but when you've added lots of data, same view, but look at my information card. Once again, it feels extremely overwhelming, and that's because it is showing all of those fields in one view, and it's pretty much useless. It makes me not even want to open this view. So the thing to know is that you can come in the item view and you can edit the layout and you can start adding widgets and you can add as many of these information tables as you want and other things. And then you can drill into each of these and you can choose which data points you want to show. So by default, it's always going to show everything and every new field is going to show up here, which we don't want. So I've already curated the view. Let me show you what it looks like to drill in. Now, when I drill in, I want to see a level deeper. So I'm going to look at data that isn't necessarily on the board overview. I want to see detailed data. And what you can see here is I've built 4 different boxes and I've labeled them contact info, where I'm showing when you select a contact, what's their email and phone and the domain. The lead info, right? So if this was a qualified lead that's now on my opportunities board, when was the lead created? When was it qualified? What are the notes that they put into the form that they filled out? What did they say they're interested in? If I wanted to pull in who was the person that worked it, I could show that. Follow-up cadences are a big deal for us, right? So back on this view, if I come out here for a moment, you'll see that we show how often do we want to follow up on something. And if we haven't updated it in a week, a quarter, and a month, it bumps up automatically to follow up. That's because we have some automations, and we've covered this in previous webinars. We have some automations that are auto setting a date. And by and large, I don't want to look at that date. However, sometimes I do want to drill in and I do want to see that date. And I'll show you how we do that. Well, actually, let's scoot over here. Um, so we have it right here. So if you do want to manually change it, you can just click in and change the follow-up date. And then finally, a lot of our business is referred to us by people. So we select the referrer, and here's a link to their Slack channel or their Teams channel or anything. You click it, and it'll automatically load that for you. So much different experience here than by the default pattern that Monday's going to start overloading with data. And then the beauty of this is I can come to this curated view and I can make it my default. So there you go. So now this is the nice clean view that everybody's going to get when they load an item card, which is nice. So that's our item card views. Anything you think I missed, Brandon, or should I jump over to my work?
No, I think that covers the high level pieces. My work is
Cool.
often less well understood amongst our clients and how to use it.
Yeah, perfect. So let's take a look at my work. The first thing I want to call out is that garbage in, garbage out. You really want a clean architecture with cleanly delineated process or workflow boards and cleanly delineated data boards. You want all that connected together. You want clean views like this so everybody's keeping up on everything. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of clutter in the view I'm about to show you. But let's take a look because it's very powerful when done right. So the first thing I want you to notice is that my work is up at the top left of my screen. It's above the section where you select what workspace or bucket that you want to be in Monday. And so that's because these things are across all workspaces and boards. So when I load my work, what it actually does is it looks across every single board in the system and it pulls in all of my data all at once for me, which is really cool and powerful. So you can see here in this view, it's telling me I have 4 things that are overdue currently, 2 that are due today, 4 for this week, 12 for next week, 16 that are further out, and 7 things that don't yet have a date set. That's really powerful. The other thing to notice is it's called my work, but I like to call it our work because it's showing mine by default. I could choose to look at Brandon's workload, especially if I'm a manager. I want to see where are people starting to potentially bottleneck. How can I help them? Do I need to move work around? I can look at a team level. If you're using the teams function and assigning work to teams, you can look at everything that's on finance's plate. So this is really nice. And then it's choosing which boards you want to show. So lots of boards. I actually stripped this down so it's nice and clean because we have tons of data. I'm looking at opportunities and leads, but I could pull in the delivery portfolio board and it will refresh and it'll pull in all of my work from that as well. And like everything in Monday, fully customizable. What's your status column? You can choose that. What's the date column and the priority that filters these things in and out. And so that's my work. Again, like we said, there you go. So it just refreshed, pulling in that other board. Really powerful. But I would say the thing to understand is that as human beings, it's easy for us to get overwhelmed and overloaded. So if you load the My Work view and you've got 127 things that are overdue, guess what? You're just going to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to close this. I'll just figure out what I need to do by looking through my email because that's scary and I don't have time to clean that stuff up. And so you don't usually clean up from the My Work view. You clean up from all those clean actionable views on your different process boards. But this is a very nice way to sit down on a Monday or a Tuesday after a long holiday or every morning and just say, hey, what do I have to get done? What's time sensitive that has to happen today or this week or next week? And then move back to those process boards and get ahead of the ball. Ultimately, what we want to do is be proactive, not reactive, right? Not always fighting fires, not managing our inbox based on when somebody follows up a second or a third time. We want to get ahead of the ball. And that's what this view helps you do. Anything else you want me to cover on this, Brandon, or you want to take us home?
No, I think you covered all the important parts.
Sweet. Well, then take us home.
All righty. So we've seen a number of items today, and I wanted to highlight some key takeaways, which is really that your board configuration is only good as your views, and your views are only as good as your board configuration. meaning how you set up your business process and the workflow and how you split up your boards and what they're intended to cover really allows you to have good, rich views and very focused views that are easier for your team to use. And when we have that, we tend to have better adoption. Teams want to come in. It's easier to manage work, easier to see what you need to do, easier to see what's working and not working, all inside of that. So it makes a really big difference if we set it up correctly. But with that, we also have to be intelligent about how we use our workflows. Are there automations that we can use to trigger if we are missing an NDA, missing an SOW, missing a follow-up that's now 2 weeks old? We need to use that to help make sure we are staying on top of these pieces and that our views help support that. So this is where your board configuration, your views, and your automation all need to work together to help give you the most rich and scalable process out of it. But ultimately, all this is also a consistency play. You need to make sure you have consistency across your boards, across your workspaces, so that your teams are not shocked every time they come into a new board. There are some standards of how your teams apply it, what they expect to see, and how they can manage their work inside of it. With that, Ethan and I talk fast, and we're sorry. But if we miss anything, don't worry. We're going to send you a link to this a little bit later. It'll also be up on YouTube within probably another day or two, so you can check that out. If you do have questions or need us to help you out, please reach out to us on the website. We have a contact us form that will Ethan and I watch very closely to help make sure you're supported. We have our last in our four-part webinar series here before Elevate New York City. Next one is going to be Executive Strategy That Works. That'll be in 2 days, Thursday at noon here. If you aren't registered, register now. And last but not least, if you're going to Elevate, which is Monday's annual conference in New York City here on September 17th and 18th, let us know. And if you haven't registered yet, you can take 10% off with that code you see here on the screen. If you are going, please let us know. We'd love to catch up with you. Nice to meet you in person, that we don't do that often anymore. And it would be great to make a real connection. Otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. Thanks, and have a good rest of your day.